Blending theory is a cognitive semantic approach derived from conceptual metaphor theory and mental space theory. It is closely related to mental space in terms of architecture. The crucial insight of blending theory is that the meaning construction involves integration of structure resulting in more than the sum of its parts. For example, consider the category pet fish. Instead of being simply the intersection of pet and fish category, it selectively integrates aspects from each to form a new category. For instance, a pet fish is not just a fish kept as a pet, but rather a distinctive category with specific characteristics such as being confined to an aquarium or bowl, needing regular feeding, and being source of companionship for its owner.
In many cases, meaning construction appears to derive from structure that is apparently unavailable in the linguistic or conceptual structure that functions as the input to the meaning construction process. Blending theory accounts for this observation. For instance, the metaphor that surgeon is a butcher demonstrates a discrepancy in the conceptual metaphor theory due to its implied negative assessment of incompetence. While the source domain butcher is associated with skill, the metaphor implies incompetence in the target domain surgeon, which isn't directly derived from the source. The blending theory accounts for this using emergent structure, which is more than the sum of its component parts.
To account for examples like surgeon as a butcher metaphor, the integration network theory was developed. An integration network is a mechanism for modeling how emergent meaning might come about. An integration network consists of inputs in which elements in each input are linked by mapping. Mental spaces are the conceptual units that makes up the integration network. One of the ways in which this model gives rise to a complex network is by linking two or more input spaces by means of generic space. The generic space provides information that is abstract enough to be common to both or all the inputs. Elements in generic space are mapped onto counterparts in each of the input spaces, which motivates the identification of cross-space counterparts in the input spaces. An integration network consists of a fourth space called a blend space or the blend. This is the space that contains new or emergent structure. The blend takes elements from both input and derives a structure that is contained in neither of the inputs.
What are emergent structures? So, conceptual integration is not merely the addition of two input spaces. Instead, integration of two inputs creates a new meaning that were not present in either of the sources. Hence, emergent structures arise as a result of multiple projections of elements from input mental spaces onto the blended space. Now let's see its application and see how it explains the surgeon-butcher example. The blending theory is able to account for the negative assessment associated with this example by using emergent structure. In the input space for butcher, named input 2, we have a highly skilled professional. However, in the blend, these skills are inappropriate for performing surgery on human patients. While surgeons attempt to save lives, butchers perform their work on dead animals. When we blend the concept of a surgeon with that of a butcher, we get an emergent structure that combines elements from both. This includes aspects from the original concept of surgery and butchery, as well as new features that emerge from the blend, like a surgeon who performs an operation using the skills of butchery. This individual does not exist in either of the input spaces. The structure in the blend is emergent because it emerges from adding together structure from the inputs to produce an entity unique to the blend as a mismatch between the goal, which is healing, and the means, which is butchery.
Blending theory refers to various types of connector between mental spaces as vital relation. A vital relation is a link that matches two counterpart elements or properties. These vital relations give rise to compression in the blend. In other words, the blend compresses the distance or tightens the connection that holds between the counterparts in the mental space. Here is an example where different times and different identities are compressed. So what you see in this picture is a dinosaur named Velociraptor who is chasing a dragonfly, and you see that from one picture to the next picture, Velociraptor becomes more and more bird-like until in the last picture it starts looking like a present-day bird catching the dragonfly. Now what this picture tells is one of the Lamarckian type of evolution where dinosaur trying to catch the dragonfly and that somehow passes some of his characteristics to its predecessors. Now all these dinosaurs and all these dragonfly of course are different individuals, but what this picture invites you to think of is that on some level they really are same. So you can compress them into one animal that changes from being a velociraptor into being a little songbird, even when this happened at different evolutionary timescale.
So even when they seem similar, blending theory displays various differences with the conceptual metaphor theory. The first is, not all the blends are metaphorical. Conceptual metaphors typically involve two spaces, the source domain and the target domain. The source domain provides the metaphorical concept and the target domain is the concept which is being described metaphorically. On the other hand, blending can involve multiple input spaces. It's like mixing together different ideas or concepts from various sources to create a new blend. For example, when someone says you are digging your own financial grave, it's a blend that combines the idea of digging a grave with the financial trouble. The next is, blending does not involve unidirectional mappings. Conceptual metaphor theory mainly focuses on mapping concepts from one domain to another in a one-way direction. In blending theory, instead of just transferring structure from one domain to another, it selectively takes elements from different inputs and combines them into a blended space. The structure created in the blend can sometimes be projected back to the original input spaces. This means that the blend can influence or change the original concepts that it came from. For example, time is money. In conceptual metaphor theory, time is money would involve a one-way mapping from the concept of money to time. But the blending theory combines elements from both domains to create a new blended concept, such as imagining time as a currency, where we have concepts like spending time, saving time, or even investing time like we would do with the money. Lastly, emergent structure. A particularly important difference between two theories is that while blending theory provides an account of emergent structure, conceptual metaphor theory does not. This follows from the fact that conceptual metaphor theory relies upon a two-domain model.
Let's summarize what we discussed. Conceptual integration consists of an architecture that involves generic space, two or more input spaces, and a blended space. It creates emergent structures that are not present in the input spaces. It involves compression of vital relations such as time, space, identity, role, etc. We concluded the discussion with a critical evaluation of the differences between conceptual metaphor theory and blending theory.